tradition. Last night, 6 people were shot. Last night in the Bronx, there was a shooting and a 24-year-old was killed. Early this morning in the Bronx, there was a shooting, a 21-year-old was killed. I used to be HUD Secretary, Housing and Urban Development, working with cities all across the country. Any mayor will tell you that public safety is job one, because if a city isn't safe, nothing works. If the city isn't safe, economic development doesn't work, affordable housing doesn't work, public education doesn't work. Systemically, the way the city works, public safety is job one. And we have a public safety crisis in this city. There's also a tremendous personal cost. We are losing young people at an alarming rate. 24, 21 yesterday. Yesterday was the 10th year anniversary of the death of a person who worked for me, murder of Carrie Gabay. Carrie Gabay was killed in the celebration in the aftermath of the parade. Carrie Gabay was 43 years old. He was a lawyer, worked in my counsel's office. I worked with him for about 4 years. He was the model of the American dream. He grew up in the Bronx, went to public school, got himself a scholarship to Harvard University, went to Harvard Law School, worked in a number of big law firms, then wanted to do public service and came and worked in the governor's office. Ironically, Carrie Gabay worked on our gun violence program and on our gun violence bill called the SAFE Act, which was the strongest gun violence program in the United States. And the SAFE Act itself was the strongest gun control bill in the United States. So it's not just a systemic problem, it's a terrible loss of human life that we are suffering. The approach to gun violence has to be a holistic approach. It has to be treated like a public health crisis, because that's what it is. You have to attack it in the community with community-based groups. You have to fund programs like what they call the SNUG programs, which are programs that work with gangs, that detect possible controversy and step in before. You have to work with what they call violence interrupters. And you have to be providing jobs to these young, at-risk youth. And you have to give them something to look forward to. And we need more police. I want to add 5,000 additional police officers. Why? Because we are at one of the lowest levels of police officer staffing since the 90s. And we know that more police are part of the solution. David Dinkins, Mayor David Dinkins, God rest his soul, came into office. Mayor David Dinkins, God rest his soul, came into office. There was a crime problem. What did he do? He hired more police, Safe Street, Safe City program, raised the number of police, and it worked. The crime rate came down. So we know that's part of the problem, and we know it's an aggravated problem because we're now even losing police at a very high rate of attrition because the NYPD feels demoralized, and we know we have a problem recruiting police. But that has to be a top priority. attacking gun violence as the public health epidemic that it is, and hiring more police officers and doing what we need to do. I would raise the starting salary because I think we're going to need that to recruit additional police. And I'd raise the starting salary with the $15,000 bonus at the end of the first year, so we are competitive with the surrounding police departments. But we need more police, and we need that holistic approach. My socialist opponent, Zoran Mamdani, sees it the exact opposite way. He views crime through a political lens as a socialist. And he has been very, very clear in his position for many, many years. Literally, he said, defund the police. He then went further and said, disband the police. His words, not mine. He then said, disarm the police. He then attacked the police themselves. He said the police are racists. He said the police are a threat to public safety. He said he co-sponsored a bill that would legalize prostitution. In the Democratic Socialist Charter that he's a member of, it says we should legalize the drug trade. This is exactly wrong. Exactly wrong. He says now he would disband what's called the SRG, the Strategic Response Group, which is a very important response unit of the NYPD. He says he would send a social worker to domestic violence calls. Domestic violence calls, they're called domestic violence because they often involve violence. And sending a social worker to do the job where you need a police officer is totally misguided. So he literally has this political view that has no connection to reality. He would have the traffic stops done by transportation officials. Traffic stops is where we find a large number of illegal guns. So his political view of the issue of public safety is in direct opposition to the reality of the public safety issue. And this is, the mayor's job is not political theory. It is practical reality. And job one is keeping New Yorkers safe. He is a danger to New Yorkers. He is dangerous and he is reckless because of his inexperience and his political philosophy. I believe that from the bottom of my heart. And again, we're talking about young human lives that we are losing. And we have to be doing everything we can to stop it. The first step towards solving a problem is acknowledging a problem. And denial is not a life strategy. So let's be honest about what we're facing, and then let's deal with it. Good news is we know how to deal with it. I did this as governor. We had a holistic approach to gun violence. We funded community-based programs and snug programs and violence interrupters. David Dinkins set the model in hiring more police officers. So we know what needs to be done. We just need to do it. And we can. Questions?
Let me begin by asking, you have said your opponent is not qualified to handle violence in the Bronx, but the Bronx Democrats just endorsed your opponent. What does that say, in your view, about the Bronx Democrats?
Look, political endorsements are done for political reasons.
But these are Democrats in the Bronx who, that's your party.
Yeah, well, let's be clear. Zoran Mamdani is a socialist running on the Democratic line and has some Democrats endorsing him, but he's a socialist. I am a Democrat running on an independent line. So is it unusual for some Democrats to endorse a person on a Democratic line? No. There are also many other senior Democrats who are not endorsing uh, Mamdani on the Democratic line. That's what's unusual. Go find the last time you had a person on the Democratic line who wasn't endorsed by senior Democrats. Google that. I don't think you're going to find it.
Madani just got endorsed by de Blasio. Tell me about it.
What's to tell? I think de Blasio was one of the worst mayors we've ever had. So
One of your other opponents, Mayor Adams, has been all about public safety, and his police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, announced that the police deployment was the largest deployment of any public event this year, and they have, said that they would do everything to stop gun violence. So, how much of this is a matter of public safety, or a matter of what your other opponent, Curtis Siwa, criticized the mayor for saying this was a perception of violence?
when you have a 21-year-old dead and a 24-year-old dead in a day, that's not a perception issue. That is a reality issue. I was in Manhattan last week. A 69-year-old woman was shot. This is reality. It has nothing to do with perception. Commissioner Tisch has said she needs more police officers. She has said that. And I'm saying, and we have to address it in a holistic way with violence interrupters, with community-based organizations working together, with snug organizations working together to try to get to the root causes, with more jobs and training to get to these young people earlier on. And more police are part of that answer.
You mentioned your work in your efforts when you were governor to try to drive shootings down. Were shootings lower when you left the governor's office than they are now in New York City?
I don't know I would have to check on what the comparison is. But, this rate of gun violence and this rate of death and harm is unacceptable.
But in other words, I guess without getting to the specifics of those statistics, you seem confident that some of your efforts as governor helped solve the problem when you were governor. But now I think Commissioner Tisch and others would say shootings are lower than they were when you left the office of governor.
Yeah, again, I don't know on the numbers. The numbers are too high. Crime is going up. Crime is not going down, right? That's a fact. If you look at the numbers, crime is going up. New Yorkers are not crazy. That's the perception reality. Crime is going down. No, it's not. Crime is going up. Some categories of crime are coming down, but overall, crime is going up. That's a fact.
The NYPD has released statistics showing gun violence has gone down, at least under Mayor Eric Adams. Other types of crime have gone up.
Yeah, some categories of crime have gone down, but overall, crime has gone up. And that's what New Yorkers sense. And that's why when you say crime is down, they say you don't know what you're talking about. Because they're out there every day, they live their lives, and they're right. Crime is up. Well, some categories are down. Great, but overall, crime is up.
With that said, Bundy was in town. Are you in favor of Trump using New York City like he's doing to California and DC?
Look, I think, no, obviously, I am 100% against it. And if I'm mayor of the city of New York, Donald Trump is not going to send troops into New York City, period. I believe if Mamdani wins, he will send in troops. I don't even think he would wait for him to take office. I think President Trump has already said that he doesn't believe Mamdani is competent. His position on crime and violence, I think Trump would send federal troops in immediately if Mamdani happened to be elected.
Why do you think he hasn't done that yet?
Well, first of all, trying to figure out exactly how the president thinks is beyond my capacity. But I fully believe that he has mentioned New York, and he has said that he doesn't believe Mamdani is competent, and I believe that will be his rationale to send in the National Guard. He'll just say, he'll quote Mamdani back to Mamdani and New Yorkers. And he'll say, your mayor says, defund the police, disarm the police, dismantle the police are racist. The police are the problem. They're the threat to public safety. And if that's the mayor's position, Trump will say, I have to send in troops to keep New Yorkers safe because I believe in public safety. That's what he would say. And he would use Mamdani's words against him because Mamdani did say that. And didn't say it once. He has said it repeatedly for years. Well, today he says something different. Yeah, if he says something different today, different than what he said for the past 10 years, what's to stop him from saying something different tomorrow, right? Maya Angelou said, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time. You can look at years of his comments. Look at the charter that the socialists signed. It says deconstruct prisons. It says legalize prostitution, legalize the drug trade. That is what he believes. This last minute gimmick, well, I changed my mind. Who's going to believe that? New Yorkers aren't fools.
Lastly, from my perspective, I mean, the current mayor would say that he did flood the zone with police officers over the holiday weekend. Are you saying that even more police officers might have made a difference in preventing some of these shootings?
I'm saying if you treated it holistically and as a public health epidemic, and we had community groups working and snug groups working and violence interrupters working, and if you got into those gangs and you gave them an alternative and you got those young people jobs, yeah, I think the holistic approach is necessary. I don't think more police officers without the holistic approach is the right answer. I think you need a holistic approach. Part of that is additional police.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Stay cool.
Can you take a look this way? Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.